Bonjour everyone and welcome back to the Waves of Your Soul. Today's video is gonna be my February 2024 favorites. We're gonna be talking about what I got up to in the last month and a half or so ever since I did my last favorites. I'll be sharing with you a little bit of a life catch-up, what's been happening behind the scenes, a little bit about my trip to the UK that I did last month and what I brought back. I talk about lifestyle, TV shows, and of course tarot and oracle decks, because that's the main thing that I talk about on my channel. First up, my hair is having a life of its own today. Please excuse the frizziness, but the humidity is through the roof. It's monsoon season right now where I live, and I'm surprised I haven't grown moss out of my own hair yet because it's that humid. So fun times, which also brings me to my second point. If you hear any background noise, it's the fan. It's super hot right now. As per usual, all the things I'm going to be talking about are going to be in the description box below. All the names of the decks, where you can find them. I'll also add my other social media links. I will also include my monthly favorite playlist in case you want to go back and look at all the other ones. And in case you're new here, hi, my name is Marine. I'm a French tarot reader, hence the heavy froggy accent. And on my channel, I love reading the cards and I love talking about them. So if you'd like to see any more of that, make sure to subscribe. Without further ado, let's get into this monthly favorite, and we'll start with life catch-ups because I have got a lot to tell you. Okay, let's start with life catch-ups, and I want to start with kind of giving you a glimpse into what's been going on behind the scenes. And of course, February was massively influenced by a trip I took to the UK. So first, if you want to know all the tarot decks, all the oracle decks, all the books I brought back from the UK, then I made a whole video about it. It's epic. It's like over an hour long, so be warned, but I'll put it in the card somewhere. I'll share with you in a bit all the other little things that I brought back because they still bring me joy. But if you haven't seen the whole video, I'll leave it there. As I promised in my whole video, I said I would explain to you in this one why I went to the UK and why that particularly trip came about, because if you've been following me on Instagram, you know it was as much of a fantastic trip as it was a very difficult one. So the reason why I went to the UK was not for holiday or for fun or pleasure or anything like that, even though I did have some wonderful times as well, but it was to finally get all of my belongings out of my storage box and bring back everything that I could, give away anything I didn't need anymore, and just gather my life back, because for those of you who might not know, it's not something I talk about a lot on my channel, so maybe some of you are not aware. 5 years ago, I got really sick. In the space of like 3 months, I went from having a very full, social, active, healthy life in London. I had a great job, I had wonderful friends, I had a great life. I'd been living in London for almost a decade. I was like halfway through my 9th year when I started getting sick, and my body just broke down in the space of 3 months. I will not go into my medical history with you guys because that's something between me and myself. I don't really feel comfortable sharing like my medical history on the internet. However, what I can tell you is that I got really sick, and that it's still something that I am continuously dealing with. I've been in pain every day for the last 5 years. I deal with chronic pain, chronic illness, but when I actually started to develop the worst symptoms 5 years ago, I went from literally in the space of 3 months having a very happy, healthy life in London to having to put all my stuff in storage and go back to home, to Reunion, where I live now, because I literally could not take care of myself anymore. My body just collapsed, so I couldn't walk, I couldn't use my arms. So within a very short period of time, I went from being healthy and active to being completely bedbound and having my doctors telling me that I might never walk again and that I might be on assisted living and need full care for the rest of my life. All of that happened super quickly. At the time I was living in London, I had to put, like I said, all of my stuff in storage, come back to Reunion to come back to my family, as I couldn't even walk anymore. I couldn't shower myself, I couldn't wash my own hair. It was pretty terrible, as you can imagine, and this is something I've been working on for the last 4.5 years, is like me regaining slowly independence. So for about 2 years I had to learn how to walk again. By the time I started my channel on YouTube, I could walk a little bit, but not very much. But YouTube, just this like lighthouse in the dark, could barely walk and get out of my chair, but I committed, you know. And right now, as I mentioning on my video sometimes, I'm still dealing with chronic pain, I'm still dealing with chronic illness symptoms. I've got some better days than others. I'm still very much not living the life I would like to live, but I can walk again, and I can shower, and I can wash my own hair, and I can cook. So in that sense, I've made a lot of progress. But ever since I've gotten sick, I was always working towards being able to come back to the UK to go and get my stuff back, because the way I left was really traumatic. I put all my stuff in storage, and I thought it was gonna be for like 2 months, 3 months. I thought maybe I'd come back home, get the care I needed, and feel better and come back to the UK, and turned out that it was 4 years later, and I still had to battle with very heavy symptoms. This particular trip to the UK, it's something that I worked on for the last, like I said, 4.5 years. So finally, at the end of January / beginning of February, it was time for me to go back to the UK. I hadn't planned to be going so soon, in the sense that obviously I'm still dealing with pain. I still have a lot of symptoms that make some days very difficult, but there was just a lot of circumstances that meant that I had to get it done now because I couldn't wait any longer. So this is the main reason why I went to the UK. I was very obviously grateful that my friends and family helped me to empty my storage box, to finally donate anything that I didn't need, to bring back what I could. So it was a very bittersweet trip, since that I had to face the grief of like my old life, my old healthy life, going back to a place where I used to live when I was healthy, when I didn't have to deal with all of this illness shit. It brought a lot of grief, obviously, having to get rid of a lot of my belongings, like 70% I think. In the end, it was also, there's a lot of grieving that comes with that. Also being so grateful, because obviously I got to see all my friends in the UK again, and if any of them are watching, I need to tell them I love them so much, because they're the main reason why this trip was possible for me. People took care of me, they helped me get around. The few days that I managed to get out and about in London, they were there to help me out. I really have the best friends in the world. I'm super blessed, so I feel extremely lucky that I have an amazing support system, and I'm so grateful for everyone that I got to see again. Because my main goal for the trip was to literally get my storage box emptied. I hadn't planned to do anything really in London. It wasn't really on the cards for me. Like I said, it wasn't gonna be a trip of like visiting places, and you know, I would have loved to organize a tarot meetup, but even that I didn't dare to do it, because I really didn't know how my body would react after such a long trip, and it was my first big journey after you know, falling ill. So there was a lot of like pressure and a lot of like physical things to overcome, and physical challenges. So this was definitely like a trial trip for me, and it was definitely a huge achievement for me. My card for the year is the World card, and within the first month I literally went and did the thing and closed the door that I've been wanting to close for the last 5 years. So the World is a very appropriate card of the year for me for this year. So I would have absolutely loved to be doing a tarot meetup. I know there's so many of you around London and even in the UK. For me, this was definitely a trial trip. I wanted to get this huge thing done, and I wanted to see how my body was. I'm definitely now encouraged to plan more trips in the future. I hadn't planned on doing any kind of like visiting or anything like that, but I did manage, thanks to again my amazing friends being super supportive, and I did bring back some fun things too. So I wanted to share them with you in this part of the video as well, now that like story time is over. So the first place that I managed to go thanks to my friends was the National Gallery Museum. There's actually a very big synchronicity storyline that happened and that weaved itself into my particular trip that has to do with Monet. So Monet is one of my favorite painters. You know, if you don't know Monet, here it is. That's one of the things I brought back. This is one of his things, and there's a huge story there that a few months back I had this dream that I was standing in front of this particular painting. I was in the dark room in front of this illuminated painting in my dream. But this dream happened about 6 months ago, before I even knew that I was gonna be going to the UK. At this point, it wasn't even in the books for me to travel. I mean, 2 days before I was supposed to travel, I still didn't know if I would make it. But 6 months ago, I hadn't even started planning the trips or anything like that. It wasn't even on my mind. I have this dream about Monet, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, I always have crazy dreams, so what's one more? I mean, sure, fine, I love this painting, so it's not that surprising. Fast forward to my trip to the UK, I literally had synchronicity upon synchronicity upon synchronicity of me being put in front of Monet paintings and of me engaging with Monet's art. And I think it was the universe's way of like giving me some kind of confirmation or support that I was meant to be here, that this was fate for me to actually close this chapter and open a new one, and that it was time. I was truly standing at a crossroad, and I felt that. So one of the few outings I managed to do with my friends, we went to the National Gallery Museum in London. It's in Charing Cross for those of you who know it. I love London museums because they're free. You can literally just walk in. It's amazing. Managing to go into the National Portrait Gallery Museum and to go into the Impressionist room, and they have a whole gallery of Impressionist art with Van Gogh and Monet and Renoir and all of the other ones. And the best way I can explain it is like I felt like I was where I was supposed to be. Like I had this dream about standing in front of this painting, and literally 6 months later there I was standing in front of this painting. So at the National Portrait Gallery, obviously I had to bring back a print of this because it was so magical. And then I actually found some super cute playing cards. All of my cards lovers, we love playing cards, right? And this one was super cute. There's 2 of the same, and on each of the cards you have a different painting from the museum, all of their famous paintings. So I leave an image here, but obviously as someone who loves playing cards, who loves cards in general, who loves to collect decks and stuff, I needed this particular thing in my life. And the fact that there's 2 make me feel better, because at least one I think I could play with, and I might even write some keywords on them and use as an oracle, and the other one I might keep for traditional cartomancy. And obviously at the National Gallery Museum, I mean, this was one of my very few outings, so you know I had to go crazy in the bookshop. I got some lovely postcards from a few of the arts they have there, and we're gonna be using them for choosing our cards, pick a card readings and stuff. I thought we could do some postcards. I got a whole Monet set because, like I said, me and Monet, we just have this special bond. It was always one of my favorite painters, but after this particular trip and me being faced with this, and there's more story about that, which I'll tell you in a bit, but me being faced with his art in so many different ways, it feels like there's much wisdom for me to be gained there. So I bought some postcards, lots of postcards that I want to use for, again, choosing piles, things like that. And one of my best friends actually gifted me this Monet decoration, this little like Christmas decoration with Monet, and he's holding his nymphaeas here, his famous nymphaeas, and honestly this is everything. And he's actually been hanging on my tarot shelf. He's like the keeper of the shelves now, so I love him so much. Of course I brought back a lot of London stuff like Christmas decorations. I bought mugs, I bought like coasters and, you know, London magnets, you name it. It's all over the house because London is one of my favorite cities and I miss it so much. But other stuff I brought back I wanted to share with you. Continue on the Monet synchronicity. Literally in front of my Airbnb, on the bedroom window, in front of it was a bus stop, and on the bus stops, on the buses, there was this ad for a Monet interactive experience. And so I leave some images here. So there was this ad for this like Monet interactive experience that was literally closing down the day I was leaving the UK. It was happening on this super short amount of time, and it was only happening in London, in New York, and it was happening while I was in London for this exact moment that I was there. So the same day I see the bus on the ad, my friend texts me and is like, look at this, we need to go, I'll drive you. And so I was like, perfect, because normally this is the kind of stuff again I wouldn't have been able to do as I wasn't super mobile. The fact that they could drive me was just amazing. And so here I was again, after having this dream 6 months ago of being in front of Monet paintings in this amazing interactive exhibition. You had these huge couches and they were projecting on the walls 360 all around you, all those beautiful paintings. They had some animation with music. Again, I leave some images here. It was poetic, it was magical, it was wonderful, and it was just absolutely synchronistic. Of course, I had to buy something from this particular exhibition. You know, I couldn't help myself. I got this amazing silk scarf. Hopefully you can see it. It's huge. It's literally huge. And you might have seen it in my recent haul video. There was a lot of magic there. There was a lot of confirmation there. The whole trip was a reinforcement in listening to my intuition, in believing in the universe's plans, and in sometimes when things go wrong, learning to just get out of the way and going with the flow. That was definitely a whole other theme of the trip, was that it was very difficult, it was very painful, but I got through it. Just to finish up showing you some little bits I brought back from my trip, and then we'll move on to TV and decks and all of that I've been loving in the last months. I did wanted to show you this amazing present I got from my friend Jen. She made me this beautiful sun tarot card, and I think she actually sewed paper. She's super creative and it's just so beautiful. So this is actually living on my altar, and it's bringing so much joy because obviously the sun is one of my favorite cards and it's giving me home vibes. I live on a tropical island, so I'm loving this so much. Another amazing present that I got from my friends that I think you guys will see a lot more on my future videos. You might have seen it actually in my March reading. This is a custom-made dish that one of my bestie got made for me. It's got the name on my channel here, The Waves of Your Soul, and it's made by some Spanish ceramic artist, because my bestie is Spanish, and so I leave the name here. It's Norte Ceramica. I've been using this for throwing charms and I'm obsessed. It's so beautiful. We love supporting independent artists on this channel, so I wanted to shout it out. I'll leave the name to their shop down below. I think you can obviously custom make stuff, ask them to make handmade stuff and everything, and this is so precious. And I also found this super cute little cup. It's supposed to be a mug, but I'm using it as a brush holder from Flying Tiger. So it's just a big as lobster. Makes me happy. It has two big like handles there. I love Flying Tiger as a shop. If you've watched my whole video, you know I bought a game from there, a little like playing game. I'm gonna turn it into an oracle deck. So just some cute stuff I brought back, I wanted to share with you. But I feel like I've rambled for way too long, so without further ado, let's get into media and then we'll move on to decks. So let's talk about media. Obviously, because I was on the trip, I wanted something to listen to while I was going through the plane journey and everything. Some of you may know, if you watched my channel for a few months or even a year or so, you might have known that I've started to get into watching people play D&D thanks to Dimension 20. I'm a huge Dimension 20 fan now. I'm obsessed. I've been really enjoying the Fantasy High series, which if there's any Dimension 20 fans out there, let me know. I'd love to know what you think. The like Fantasy High 3rd season, I believe. It's so great. I'm having so much fun with it. In January, I started to listen to Not Another D&D podcast, or as it's called for abbreviation, NADPod. So a couple of the players from Dimension 20 are part of this podcast. We have Murph, who's the actual DM in this particular podcast instead of being a player, and we have Emily, who's another player. They're both some of my favorite players in the show anyway, and so to have more of their content is just a lot of fun. As someone who's never played D&D and who's only got into watching or listening to people playing it, I can tell you that NADPod as a podcast is just been so enjoyable, mostly because the cast is hilarious and because the storyline is fantastic. So I kind of like forget that it's supposed to be a Dungeon and Dragon podcast, because I'm not super like paying attention to the fights or the mechanics or anything like that. I'm here for the storyline, I'm here for the characters, and because the characters are so engaging, I love the cast, I love how they're like playing through it, I love the evolution of the people that they've chosen to play, that I've been whizzing through. So the episodes are quite long, and there's like 3 seasons. This podcast has been on since 2019, and I believe they post every week, so there's a ton of free content to get into. Season 1 is about 100 episodes, and I think I'm on episode like 70 or something already. I've been listening to it constantly all day when I'm doing other things. I've got it on the background. I was listening to it throughout the trip, just on the planes, whatever. Like, it's just been such a joy. So if you enjoy D&D, obviously I can't recommend it enough. Even if you've never engaged with D&D, think of it as like listening a story time, but like repeatedly with the same characters over hours of content, watching characters go through trials and tribulation and evolution. And so it's kind of like audiobook. Another thing that's been massively bringing joy in the last month or so is Drag Race, because I'm a huge Drag Race fan. I think when season 3 or 4 was airing, me and my friends started watching it. So 2012 or 2013. I'd love to go back and look, but we're on season 16 now. So as you can imagine, it's a lot of seasons of Drag Race. There's a ton of franchise. If you don't know Drag Race, it's a drag queen reality TV competition. They dance, they sing, they sew, they do acting challenges. And I love drag as an art form. It brings so much joy. It's an art form I absolutely celebrate and love. The root of some of my most special friendships in my life. I'm a Drag Race girl through and through. And this month we have the Belgium one coming out. There's currently the American season airing. There's the UK versus the world. So we are spoiled for choice. There's pretty much an episode every day or every other day. If you guys are watching any of those franchises, please let's talk about it in the comments. Let me know your favorite, your contender. I want to hear it all. Let's talk about it. Who are your favorite girls? Let's chat. Let's finally talk about decks. I feel like I've been rambling for ages, but I really wanted to like give you a little catch up of what's been going on behind the scene. Something I didn't mention actually when I was talking about the trip and everything is that obviously the coming back has been quite painful, and that obviously has affected my tarot practice, because for the trip I had chosen a couple of decks which I will share with you that I loved. I read for people there, so I'll share those in a bit. For the rest of the month I was very bedbound. As soon as I got back, I, like I said, got injury upon injury, and it's only been a couple of days where I've been more mobile and able to like, you know, sit up and talk, hence me doing this video today. So my deck practice has obviously been affected by that, and I don't think I have as many decks as I would normally share, but I still have like 5 or 6 I want to talk about, so let's get into it. So the first 2 decks I want to mention are the decks I actually ended up taking with me to the UK, and I had this whole like questioning of which deck I wanted to bring, because I knew that my particular trip would be as enjoyable as it would be difficult. And if you don't know why, then go back to watch my live catch up, that will make sense. I knew there would be a lot of grieving, I knew there would be a lot of like difficult moments, and so I really wanted to make sure I picked a deck that would be there for me when I needed it, but I also could be using for reading for others. I knew I'd have all my friends coming to visit me, and most of them are tarot curious, so I really wanted to pick a deck that could be both as good as reading for others as it would be for me. So the combo I ended up picking to bring to the UK was the light Circe Tarot with the Animal Apothecary Oracle, this one by Chrisanne, this one by Cara Elizabeth, and honestly those 2 together are amazing. The light series has always been a favorite for me, but it's not really been a deck I've been using for myself in years. I used to read with it, I think, for myself maybe in 2020, and then it very quickly became a deck that I was only using for reading for others, because I knew so many people enjoy it. Every time I've had to read for someone, whether it's someone I knew well or someone I didn't, they love the light Seers. I think for me it's just one of those decks that people love, whether it's someone who knows tarot or doesn't. It's just a deck that is engaging, it's colorful, it's modern, a lot of people can see themselves in it. There's also like an aspect of it that is not threatening, it doesn't feel like occult and too mysterious, so even for people who are a little bit wary of tarot, they end up loving this particular deck. So I kind of like always ended up using it for others, and reconnecting with it, I was really reminded that this is a fantastic deck, and that even though yes it's everywhere, you might feel a little bit sick of seeing it everywhere and seeing so many people enjoy it, it's for a good reason. To me it's honestly one of those modern classics. As for the oracle, this oracle is amazing. I've talked about it on my channel before. This is very well done. The guidebook is fantastic. It's full of intention, and those two together are a beautiful pairing. If you have those two decks, I cannot recommend you to try pairing them together. They just feel like scone and cream and jam, like they're meant to go together. So honestly, this particular pairing has brought so much joy for me. It was really an opportunity for me to remind myself of how great this particular tarot is, and to give it a bit of a fresh new layer with the animal apothecary, because sometimes when we have a deck we have used so much, especially for others, it can be easy to like overlook them for ourselves. We might want to be using something more exciting for ourselves, and I tend to do that. I tend to use for myself decks that maybe are a little bit more specific, more weird, more fantasy, because that's just like my vibe. Yet every time I use them for me, I'm like, oh yeah, actually this is amazing, because I don't even have to think about it. It's so fluid, makes so much sense. It's like just plugging into the universe's voice directly and not having to do any work to like try and translate it. It's great. So those two together, absolute power combo. The next combo I want to talk about is actually a couple of decks I brought back from the UK, and those two I was enjoying when I got back, and I spent a lot of time bedbound and I couldn't move a lot. I enjoyed getting to know these two and pairing them together. So we have the Circe Tarot by Lo Scarabeo, and this is the Red Seeds Oracle 2 by Linda Hill. So I bought those two in the UK. I always wanted a deck by Linda Hill, the creator from the Red Seed Oracle. I think there's 3 different oracles and there's 2 tarot decks. When I went to Watkins, they had this one, so this is why I picked this up. And I was very happy because actually going through it, I realized that a lot of the divinities I work with are actually included in this particular edition, like the number 2, which makes me very happy. So, if you're not familiar with Linda Hill's work, they are usually working a lot with Greek mythology specifically, and with like mythology in general, but I believe Greek mythology specifically. For her oracle decks, every card you have the artwork with a mantra on one side, and on the other side you have the name of the like goddess or muse or divinity represented. You have a little bit of an explanation of who they are. You have a little bit of an excerpt from Sappho, who was a Greek writer. The challenge and the gift, which are a couple of keywords which I guess you could use as like a light reading and a shadow reading. I've always wanted one of them. I didn't know which one I want. Like I said, when I went to Watkins, they had the number 2, so that's just the one I ended up picking, and I'm delighted because actually a lot of the divinities I work with in my personal practice, Artemis, Athena, Aphrodite, they're all included here, which is fantastic. The only one I'm missing is Persephone. I think she might be in another set, but for now I'm very happy with this one. It reads wonderful. It's a deck I really enjoyed using for like pulling a card at night time, just wrapping up my day, asking if there's a message I need to get into. So as like a daily card pull, it's wonderful. It's also really great as a clarifier, and this is how I paired it with the Circe Tarot. So I would be pulling a card from the Red Seed Oracle and then use that as a starting point to create a spread, which if you've watched my channel before, you know I love doing that. The way I would do this is I would like pull one card from the Red Seed Oracle and use that as a starting point. So let's say, for example, we pulled, which one is that? Ate, I am delusion. Okay, come through, Pisces. So it says I am delusion on this side, and on the other side it says Ate was a Greek goddess of mischief, folly, ruin, and delusion. Luckily for Ate, she had sisters who followed her around cleaning up after her mayhem. She personifies the trouble and consequences that can stem from such behavior. The challenge says false beliefs, and the gift is authenticity. So So if I had pulled this card, I would be looking at the challenge and gift and reading a bit about the goddess. So I would pull some cards from the Circe Tarot and deepen this particular meaning of here delusion / authenticity, and probably like create a little spread around it. So here, if the challenge is false beliefs and the gift is authenticity, I would probably pull a card from the Circe Tarot being like, okay, what is a false belief that I hold right now? And then I would pull another one like, how can I overcome that? What is a belief that I could replace this false belief with? Or maybe how can I open my mind to to like another perspective? And then I might also pull a card around, as the gift is authenticity, maybe how can I share my authenticity a little bit more? Which area of my life do I need to be more authentic? Is there something I'm not seeing? Etc, etc. Depending on how deep I want to go, I would pull as many cards as I feel, create a whole spread, maybe do a little bit of journaling if I'm able to write that day. But just using the Circe Tarot to kind of expand on this particular card from the Red Seed Oracle didn't necessarily mean to pair them together, they just go really well aesthetically, I think. The fact also that they're both rooted in Greek mythology helps. The Circe Tarot is very beautiful. I think the artwork is fantastic. Is it my favorite mythological deck? No. I agree with some of the associations they've made. Some of them are a little bit more strange. That being said, I appreciate that in the guidebook they at least tell you who they chose to represent. So even though sometimes I don't agree, I like the fact that they tell me who they chose. That's nice. So the guidebook is good in that sense. The artwork is what gets me really, and I think that's mostly why I've been enjoying this deck so much. A lot of the time I don't even pay attention to the stories behind it, even though I'm a huge mythology buff and I love Greek mythology. I can kind of like bypass a little bit of the story sometimes and just focus on the tarot meaning, because it follows the RWS so closely, so it's easy to just take it as face value. Like I said, some of the cards I really enjoy, some of them I don't really understand why they chose this particular person, and it's not my favorite mythological deck, but it's still definitely one that I enjoy, and it's one that's very beautiful. And in terms of like a working tarot, because it follows the RWS, it reads really well for me, so I'm enjoying it regardless. If you want me to do a video about my mythology inspired deck, let me know. I have quite a few. I'm a huge fan of Greek mythology, Greek Roman mythology. I also love Egyptian mythology, so I've got quite a few oracle tarot decks. I've got some about Japanese mythology, Celtic mythology. So I actually could be doing a like mini collection video if you were interested. I was thinking of doing that maybe this year, so if you're interested, let me know if you would like to see those, and I could actually like give you my opinion, like do I think they're good, do I think they're okay, do I enjoy them or not. Let me know if you would like to see that. 3 more decks to share with you that I've been really enjoying. This one, it was for mostly January, and then I've been picking it back up really recently. This is the Tarot Bot. This is by, gosh, I never remember, Michael Murdoch at saberdesigns.com. I got my copy from Le Salon des Arcanes, who is a European based, who stocks a lot of amazing decks. If you are in Europe, then definitely check them out. I'll leave the link in the description box. I'm not sponsored or anything, but I shop from Nicolas' shop regularly, so I wanted to mention it here. So I got it from Le Salon des Arcanes. I don't think Nicolas has it in stock anymore. However, a couple of you in the comments last time I shared this deck told me that the creator was still printing it just on a new website, like they had moved away their stuff to somewhere else. I was super pleasantly surprised to realize that this was actually still in print, even though I thought it was out of print. And so I'll leave the link to where you can find this deck below. It's definitely an amazing deck for all of my first robot lovers / sci-fi lovers out there. The thing that mostly surprised me with this particular tarot deck is the fact that even though we see robots here, the expressions and feelings that they manage to convey is truly very moving. And you might think that robots are devoid of emotion. That was my worry. Getting into this deck is that I love the aesthetic, but I was like, what if it feels a little bit devoid of humanity, right? Because they're robots. And I was completely wrong, because this deck actually is so great at conveying emotion, even through robot faces. I think they've done a great job at representing trials and tribulations and feelings and challenges that these robots go through, but that we can go through as well as humans. Even though a lot of the things here might be looking to appear on another planet, the core of the emotion of what they're going through, we can absolutely relate to. It's one that really gets to the core of the issue, and I think because of the whole like robot thing, it gives a very analytical kind of reading, very Queen of Swords, but there's definitely still some Queen of Cups energy here, which I was very surprised. Like, I expected the Queen of Swords vibe to come through this deck, like analytical, logical and stuff. I didn't expect it to be surrounded by this very like emotional, comforting, nurturing energy, which this deck I think definitely has. So I've been really enjoying reading with this for myself, for others. I actually use this to do my March Taroscope post on Instagram. So I did a tarot reading for all 12 signs, and I leave it in the I leave my Instagram page in the description box if you want to check it out. I use this deck and a lot of you enjoyed it, so that was really nice. I'm glad I could share that with you guys. One thing that I love about this deck as well is that in the guidebook the majors are written as poems, which I think is really beautiful. The minors, we just have some little keywords, but the majors, you have poems for both upwards and reverse, which I thought was a really nice touch. And at least in the version I have, I don't know, again, because they've changed website and I don't know if they're still selling the same version. The version I have, there was some additional cards like oracle cards, and a lot of them are archetypal, but more like villain archetypal. Like, we have the demon, we have the plague doctor, we have the helpless, so they're more like shadowy archetypes, and I have been loving those to actually create some little spreads around them. And I really want to offer a pick a card reading using those as like, what is your current shadow archetype, what is your current villain energy, and really use those to dig deep into like maybe a little bit more of our shadow side right now. They are so great for that, and obviously paired with the tarot deck that came with it, really good. I don't really want to put it down. I might continue to use it for Aries season. I don't know, this is feeling that it could match Aries energy as well, so I might continue to use it next month. We shall see. Let's move on. The last two decks I want to talk about. The first one has been such an amazing surprise, and I need to thank the creator Jessie for sending this to me. She actually got in touch a few months ago to ask if she could send her deck, the Crystal Skull Tarot. So Jessie is the creator, Jessie Driscoll, and the book is by Rachel Pollack. And so when Jessie got in touch, I had never heard of this deck, but as a huge crystal lover myself, I was like, absolutely, I'm so, I'm so grateful. If you want to send it over, I'd love to check it out. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful deck they created together. Completely unique in my collection. I don't have anything like it, and I have been so in love with this particular deck, especially for Pisces season. It's been wonderful. So nurturing, so healing, so cozy feeling that it's been absolutely my go-to for like all of Pisces season. I've just been obsessed. This is actually a deck featuring crystal skulls, but everything has been taken as a photography in direct sunlight by Jessie, and so she has mixed yarn and objects and little trinkets and obviously her collection of crystal skulls to create a scene for each of the cards that follows the RWS. What truly blew me away with this deck is the depth of intention and magic that is put into each card. You can tell that a lot of care was put into each card, not just in terms of the type of crystals that was chosen in each card, because obviously that's also a huge layer, like is it malachite, is it jasper, is it quartz. In the guidebook they explain to you what those crystal means, but also in terms of like the position of the crystal skull, where they are facing, and also the color of the yarn, which I believe Jessie has dyed some of it herself, which is amazing. The whole intention, the directionality, the like homemade feel of it is such a breath of fresh air in this sea of AI deck we are surrounded by right now. It feels so refreshing to see something actually homemade, like hand placed, hand curated, pictures taken by a human. Like, it just feels super cozy, super nurturing, and just like it really feels like a friend or a family member tapping into this deck. There is a very like close proximity you can build with this deck. It brings you in very quickly, it talks to you like a friend very quickly, and there is no like distance between you and this deck. I feel like it very quickly becomes like part of your close circle, and I really believe that it's from the fact that everything is again feels tangible, it feels touchable. Like the yarn, you feel like you could touch it, the crystals, you feel like you could touch it. For that reason, it's like accessible magic that's been brought into the day-to-day world, which I think is super special. So I've been absolutely loving this deck so much. I've had some wonderful readings with it. It's been there for me when I was feeling a bit low after my trip, you know, struggling physically. It was a wonderful friend to go to. I love all the choices that Jessie made. I love the color choices, the crystal choices. The guidebook, obviously written by Rachel Pollack, is fantastic. There's some beautiful words there. I mean, Rachel is one of my favorite tarot authors anyway, so it's always like whenever I can read her words, it feels like a balm to my soul. So the combination of these very intentionate, curated, like portraits and imagery and like landscapes of tarot mixed with the beautiful words from Rachel are just this beautiful magical combo. So I will leave where you can get this deck down below. Jessie sells it on her Etsy shop. I highly recommend checking it out because this has just been wonderful. Like I said, especially for Pisces, have a comforting, healing deck like this to be an anchor is just such a blessing. Okay, last deck I want to talk about in this video. We're talking about Pisces season. Obviously, we're talking about dreams and the subconscious and exploring our dreams, especially because I have a very active dream life. I remember most of my dreams I've had ever since I was a child. Watch the part where I was telling you about my trip to the UK. You know that my dreams are often where I get some messages from the universe, I get some synchronicity, just like what happened with the Monet painting. So the dreamscape is usually a place where I get a lot of my intuitive guidance, and it's also something that I like to explore with tarot readings and stuff. And so this month, especially because it was Pisces season, so the dreams were particularly vibrant and particularly loud. I think for all of those of you who are used to remembering their dreams, you can all agree that Pisces season is next level for sure. So the deck I've been using all months to do some dream work and stuff like that has been the Monsoon Tarot. The Monsoon Tarot is an indie deck that I got from this Etsy shop called Mignon Collection, I believe. I will leave the link to the Etsy shop down below. It was amazing, it was free shipping, it was super fast, and it wasn't even that expensive for an indie deck. There's different versions. I got the one in the top box. The version I got, the feeling is linen, but it's not as slippery as like Pagan of the World or stuff like that really feel like you're catching an eel. This one is slippery, obviously, but not too bad for linen. No connoisseurs out there. I've been enjoying this one so much. This is definitely one of the highlights in terms of deck discovery of this year so far for me, because the artwork is very ethereal, it's very dreamlike, and a lot of the people, the faces have been blurred, which at first, when this deck came out a year ago, I never wanted to pick it up because I was like, I don't really like the fact that there's no faces, it bothers me, blah blah blah. And then I was watching walkthroughs again of this, and I was just thinking about it and realizing, you know what, when you dream, you don't always remember people's faces. Actually, it's a big part of dreaming. As soon as that clicked for me, it was like, okay, I know exactly how I could be using this deck, and it's for exploring my dreams. And so I picked it up and have been loving it ever since for this particular purpose. This has been giving me some profound readings for like dream work, for the past couple of months, and it's actually inspired me to offer this reading for you guys. So I actually used it in a upcoming pick a card reading where I'm exploring one of your dreams, so watch out for that if you want to see how it reads. I just could not do it because I enjoyed it so much for myself. I was like, I need to offer it to you guys as well, share the love. The pick a card will be called like the hidden message in your dreams, or what your dreams are trying to tell you, something like that. It's just a wonderful ephemeral fantasy magical deck. You obviously don't have to use it for dream work. I've used it for just regular readings and it works really well as well. I used it for even asking like business question and it was really good, even though it could seem a bit like phantasmagorical. So I've enjoyed it for all types of reading, but I did find that particularly for dream world it's wonderful because the cards are very much going their own way. So if you are someone who is either a beginner or who like doesn't really like to rely on their intuition for reading, I don't think you would enjoy this deck because it veers off from traditional system a lot. A lot of the choices of imagery are very particular to the artist. Personally, I can get a lot from that, especially in this deck. I can channel a lot of, I can find in the details some new meanings. I get to channel a lot of like information, and so this has been wonderful for also intuitive guidance. But I just wanted to put that out there, that if you're looking for like an RWS clone or something that's very traditional, that's gonna be like helping you to understand tarot, this might not be it, especially because, like I said, the artwork veers off from traditional artwork a lot. They make up kind of like their own meaning, even though the core of the card remains there. And also the guidebook, you only have a couple of keywords per card, so I wouldn't say that's enough for sure to get you started. So this is more of a deck I would encourage you to pick up if you are looking to like expand your mind, expand your horizon, maybe like push you outside of your comfort zone as a reader, then this is great. My friends, this is it. Oh my god, what an epic long video. I'm gonna have to reduce that and edit that a little bit because I think there was a lot of rambling. But if you've made it this far, I want to say a huge thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being so patient with me as I find my footing again after the trip and like going all through the injury. Excited to be back. I have a lot of plans for some really fun readings, fun videos, tags, maybe some mini collections, and I want to continue sharing my French deck as well, which I haven't done in a while, but there's still so many French decks to share with you, so I'm gonna pick up that series as well. And so of course, until my next video, I want to thank you for being here. I can't wait to read you in the comments. I hope you're having a good month of March. I'm sending you so many good vibes, and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye!